evening and welcome to tonight's episode of News Report. My name is Salifyanji Bweupe, and thank you to you who's joining us and watching us from our Top Star channel that is 112, as well as our Facebook page that is Live TV. Remember to share and send your comments onto our platform as well. And if you have anything else, you can send them to 0976-599-547 as well. So today we are looking at, as usual, we're looking at the stories that are, making headways in the news this evening. And so I am not alone. As usual, I'm joined by Chimwanga, Kalala. Good evening, Chimwanga.
Good evening to you, Sally. How's it been today?
No, it's been good. Don't know about you. It's a bit hot, so obviously trying to,
Exactly, trying to keep the weather in check.
Sure thing. So the stories that are making headlines this evening are media bodies condemn Sun FM journalists for humiliating an interview.
And 12 points too high for many unemployed youths, says the PF youth chairperson Kaunda.
Right, so those are the two main stories we have for this evening. If you have anything to say, so please be sure to also send those comments to 0976-599-547 as well. And so there was an interview that was held on Sun FM that was last week, Wednesday, and it featured the Socialist Party, the SP spokesperson, and that is Bweupe Kafwaula. And obviously, based on this, MISA has responded and given the view of how the interviewer at that time, humiliated the guest that was on the show as well. So the Media Institute of Southern Africa, Mrs. Zambia, has condemned Sun FM's journalist Kausa Mbasila for humiliating the Socialist Party national spokesperson Bweupe Kafwaula during a live call in a program. On this particular story, what are your thoughts towards how MISA has actually responded to this?
I believe there are rights to condemn how the interview was carried out. I believe it was very unprofessional and unethical for a journalist to go to pry into such sensitive and private matters when the focus of the interview wasn't on the private person per se, but rather the party and what they plan on doing. So I believe prying too deep into their personal life on a private program, I think without even informing them, they're going to actually pry into their personal life, I believe that was very unprofessional, from the Sun FM journalist. But I believe on MISA's end as well, although we don't really have governing body for journalists in the country, I believe they can only do so much in terms of disciplinary action. I believe that should be carried out by the station. That I think only Sun FM can carry out any disciplinary action against Mr. Mbasela. So obviously, from however you choose to look at it, this was wrong, and I think it should be condemned at the highest degree, because you can't just go out and ask people such random, I don't know if I should use this word, but I would say nonsensical questions, because how was it even relevant to the interview?
Exactly.
What difference does it make? What does it bring to the table? So I believe it was very unprofessional, uncalled for, and very, I don't even know what to call it.
Quite unprofessional as well, if we might add that one to the list as well. I should think when it comes to having a guest onto the show, you get the opportunity to at least interact and just walk the guest that you're going to have through the questions that you might be able to focus in. And if the idea was to obviously find out anything personal about her life, I think that was really driven out of proportion. It was very, very uncalled for as well. But I do like the fact that in as much as this question was posed to her, she remained very calm, and she also remained, she's a very well spoken lady as well. And if you were watching the interview, you could actually tell that as much as that was an uncomfortable question as well, but she didn't really it didn't really move her to the point where she started getting all defensive and everything else. It was rather very professional for me as well. But now when we go back to the journalist, that is Kaosam Basela as well, I should think should really have, probably if you wanted to find out anything personal about her life, and if I was going to ask that question, I should have asked her, away from the camera, or away from the microphone as well. Because then now it seems as if it was kind of like a personal vendetta. So you don't know whether it was meant to like tarnish her image, or the question was meant to actually find out if we had any some potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you'd be forgiven to think that he was asking probably as a potential suitor, because I don't think that was very out of place when it comes to a professional setting.
Right.
Yeah, so I believe one trend I've noticed with most journalists in the country, they tend to, when it comes to interview, it seems like being rude and offensive is like the way to go. I don't know if that's what makes a good interview. I believe you shouldn't have to be offensive or rude for you to actually have a great interview that will captivate people. I believe it should be about sharing information in a meaningful manner and in a transparent manner. I think that's the way it's supposed to be. But I believe there's a trend of where people think if you're offensive, that rakes up the views and entices people to watch. But I believe you don't have to be feisty for you to actually draw in people to. I think it should be about the exchange of information. Yeah. So I think that should be the focal point of interviews.
Right.
Not trying to.
I mean, will come a time when you actually need to obviously make, if you have like a panel, make your panelists at least sweat. If it's a very political issue, there's a debate that is going on. But if you're going to have like a one-on-one type of like interview, I don't see anything wrong with actually carrying out the interview in a manner that is very respectful and very professional on both ends. I mean, as a party, they are trying to really campaign. Also, we're looking at the polls that are coming in next year, so they're just around the corner. So obviously they are trying to also make a name for the party and ensure that people actually get the information about the party, about their manifesto and the agenda that they have as well. And just to slightly move away from the humiliating part of it, I do like the fact that she articulated the manifesto, the plans that the Socialist Party has as well. And for me, it just shows someone that is of a great standing as well. And also now when we go back to the topic of the matter here, we have seen, I don't think this is rather the first time where we see women being, degraded, on whether be it radio or TV as well. I think it's a trend that keeps on happening, but which of course should not be condoned as well. I think the same level of respect that is given to men should be given to women as well, and we should always try by all means to really focus on what the topic at hand is, as opposed to having to deviate from the main the main goal, the main issue, the main topic here as well. So I do see this as some type of violation as well, because it's very, very demeaning and disrespectful as well. And obviously, when it comes to this station as well, I think every station has an image to protect. Look, we have so many people that have termed or calling themselves, media personnel as well, and looking at how everything is being thrown here, left, right, and center on social media. I think as a media house, you need to be very careful about how you portray yourself as a station as well. So this one does not only have an impact on Kaosam Basela as a journalist, but it just gives a bigger picture of what maybe Sun FM, could be all about, because it dents the name and not the person in this particular regard.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So Mr. Zambia has urged all media houses in the country to treat both male and female politicians with equal respect, prominence, and avoid asking them demeaning questions that attack their persona. So I think for the Socialist Party spokesperson, given to the fact that she's young and a female as well, I think on the journalist part, I think it sort of made them like a target where just heading into the interview, it was just about humiliating them or just making a fool of them, so to say. Yeah. So I believe people should have that certain respect for everyone.
Yeah. And I believe there are
regardless of
also
their-
shows for such type of talk or entertainment.
Yeah.
There are different shows for that, but this is like the public forum, and obviously we know what the topic at hand was. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, but even for an entertainment show, I believe such questions shouldn't be asked for the most part, unless if you're going to ask such a question, I think you should ask the person beforehand if you're if it's fine with them asking them such a question, because it's just too personal and it doesn't bring much relevance to most discussions, especially political discussions. I don't think it brings any relevance to that.
Right. Okay, so during the program, for any of you that may not really have tuned into this program, so Mbasela humiliated Kafabula by asking her personal questions such as who are you sleeping with and are you still a virgin in the political space as well, which was so much away from the topic at hand. So before we continue really just giving our opinions or dissecting on the story, I do believe we have a clip.
You two, you're in the same thing. Right, please go ahead.
Yes, my lady there, I know you are fine. And to begin with, I think you've elaborated issues very well, but there's just one thing that I want to draw you back to. At the beginning of the program, you were asked who you were sleeping with, and you said you've not slept with anyone. And now my question is, are you still a virgin or you are a virgin in the politics? Then I wanted to find out, what is it that you are doing, that what you will do, or what the PF is currently doing wrong, and why, how have you tried to help them out?
Okay, so that is just a short clip there of the conversation that was there. And to make things worse, I think a caller called in and you asked the same question. Again, to refer to what was asked at the beginning of the show. And so obviously that now just makes it all, too uncomfortable, because now the public will feel, oh, it's okay to ask certain questions.
Yeah, so I think he made an enabling environment for people to just throw whatever questions they had in their heads at her, and I believe which shouldn't have been the case, because he set the precedent. He asked a question that was highly inappropriate. So I believe people began to follow suit now, just because it seems that's a matter of fact. So I believe just by him setting the precedent of asking such a question, I think he opened he opened the stage for the public to just throw in whatever they have to say. Yeah, so another media institution that has jumped on to criticize this from Mr. Kausa Mbasela is the Free Press Initiative, FIP, which has said the FBI, which has said the conduct of Mr. Mbasela is unacceptable and far from the behavior journalists are expected to exhibit. I think we all agree with that. I think it was just out there, I don't even know what he was trying to achieve, how, what was the intention behind that, and what was he hoping to get from the answer.
Yeah.
So
Now, the question now that this brings about is, should Mr. Mbasela be, disciplined for what he did, or should now also the media house in itself be held liable, accountable for what happened? Should one person only be disciplined, or it should be the whole media house in this particular regard? Because obviously now, based on this, I do feel that Sun FM should have also come up and probably apologized on behalf of the person, or Mbasela himself would have come out and apologized for what he did as well. That's if, it's not even a question of if. I think he owes her that apology and the rest of the country, because so many people were tuned in and they were listening to that program. So if someone just comes in and the first thing that they listen to, probably they missed the first part or they missed the middle part, didn't get the most important parts of the agenda that the Socialist Party has. So what happens in this case, because they only get that particular bite of information and probably use it and make it as a weapon to actually attack the political party.
All right. Yeah. So at the moment, Sun FM or Mr. Mbasela hasn't issued any apology that I am aware of. I've been following their page just to see what they have to say about this. I believe this happened like Wednesday last week, and MISA just released the statement last evening, and then this morning FBI also released their statement. So I believe this case is just gaining mileage. So it's just now gaining mileage. I think everybody thought it was overlooked, but I think since it's been brought back to conversation, I believe the apology will definitely be issued like sooner than later. Yeah, because everybody's picking up on it. I think it happened Wednesday last week, but all these organizations have jumped on board to criticize the unprofessionalism from the journalists. So I believe an apology is in the works.
You still haven't answered the question about the disciplinary. Should there be a disciplinary, case or action, taken against Basela?
All right. So I think that depends. I think each particular institution has policy on how they deal with their employees who go out of line. Yeah. So I think it will be up to Sun FM to see what they can do about the whole case. But I think from the moral aspect, I think the station and Mr. Mbasela in particular should apologize to the Socialist Party spokesperson.
Right. Okay, so now Mr. John Chiro, who is the FBI Zambia founder and coordinator, said that Mr. Mbasela went too far in his questioning and deserves unreserved condemnation. The FBI further urges journalists to always be ethical as they serve the public's right to know. And so on this particular note, we'll take our first break and we'll be back with more stories after this. Stay tuned.
Masenza bwanji chumyendesa kona iwe pali pako ma 20 apolo ma 5 kwachali
mama koino sasinjira kumuzonda
makoino songa chinjeko kubantu abane ngiyotophala la 5 hours pamene pano leyo
kamba naye.
That is why you need to get an e-token, sir. It is faster and easier.
So what? The e-tolling card is a National Road Fund agency card. So all you have to do is just credit it in Dalama and you'll be able to use it to get Monga Paniso. To avoid the inconveniences, so you have to start looking for 20 chocolate.
Introducing the electronic toll card. It's easier, faster, and secure. Access the e-toll cards from all toll gates across the country or the agency's head office in Lusaka at only 30 kwacha.
This message is brought to you by the National Road Fund Agency, a sustainable road fund.
And we're back. You're watching News Report with me, Salifyanji Bweupe, and Chimwanga, Kalala. And before we went on the break, we were actually looking at, the Miss Zambia story, or is it the condemnation of Sun FM journalist? And it was because of an interview that happened last week, Wednesday, where there was a bit of some humiliation that came in from the journalist. And obviously we move on to the next story, and we have an ongoing, call out, or is it something that has published, to do with the recruitment, for the Zambia Army and the Zambia National Service and the like.
All right, yeah. So the Lusaka Province PF Youth Chairperson Kevin Kaunda has appealed to the Ministry of Defense to consider removing the 12 points in the General Certificate of Education as one of the requirements to apply for these positions in the Army. All right, so Mr. Kaunda is saying this should be done away with because most young people, most unemployed youths don't have like 12 points or less when it comes to their education qualifications. That's a General Certificate of Education, the grade 12 certificate. So they want 12 points or less. Yeah. So Mr. Kaunda has said that while learned people should be appreciated in the service, he also believes that even those that are employed and don't have that level of education should also be given a fair chance for recruitment. Yeah. So do you believe that for somebody to be recruited in the Army or the Zambia Air Force, in whatever defense force, they need to have 12 points in the grade 12 examinations, 12 points or less? Do you think that's a fair qualification?
Well, when it comes to serving in the public service, and this is the Zambia Army or the Zambia National Service as well, I do feel, Zambia Air Force as well, I do feel that there's a certain type of intelligence I think that needs to be also attached to, certain, jobs, or responsibilities that are carried out as well. As much as you are serving the country, as much as you probably need to be part of the defense force out there, you actually need to really be smart and know your way in and your way out. Maybe if there's certain type of levels that come with who should actually, for qualification for a certain role as well, then maybe they should specifically look at, a qualification. But even then, I do believe there are two kinds of people. We could have the same points, but our levels of understanding could be different. Our way of interpreting things could actually be different as well. And I do believe that's why people get to go through training as well. I should feel that, I know later on in the statement he's talked about cadets as well. But as young people are growing up and they joined the cadet while growing up, I should feel there should be, some analysis done, with them as they are growing, as they are, being prepared, for the particular role that they're carrying out, not just in schools, but maybe the potential should be pointed out at an early stage, so that by the time that they're ready to go into the war, they qualify or they finish their grade 12, now they know to say, okay, our fate is to actually join the public service as well. But the question that I also have now is, do young people actually, is this what young people actually want? Just because I have the 12 points, just because I have 10 points or 6 points, does that mean I automatically want to join the Zambia Army or the Zambia National Service or the Zambia Air Force as well? I think it also now has to be with a personal decision that is made as well. And mostly parents or guardians will push their children to actually apply for these positions because they feel there's a certain level of comfort that the service will provide for them as well. And when it comes to like job securities in that regard as well. So yes, what if we have the whole probably intake of grade 12s from the previous year having 6 points and they all apply to be to be in the service? Is that what everybody else wants, or it's just something that is like a convenience that comes about as well? So if really the Defense Force, the Ministry of Defense has decided that there's a level of intelligence or a level of understanding that needs to be applied at this point to actually enroll or recruit more people into the service, I should think they should have already done their homework, and that's why they've gotten to this stage as well. Yeah.
All right, so just to bring you back, I believe one question that needs to be answered as well is that why is the Army recruiting? Why are these defense forces recruiting people? Are they trying to fill up the gap of unemployment with the youth, or do they have...
But don't they always recruit?
They always recruit, and then why do they recruit? Are they trying to fill up a mandate or a certain requirement for the defense forces so that they can function, they can operate as normally as they should. Or maybe are they just trying to fill up a gap for all these unemployed youth? I think the conversation shouldn't really be about unemployed youth. I think, quite all right if unemployed youth get recruited in the army, that would be nice. But I believe they shouldn't be the focal point of this discussion.
Are you saying
it's just,
we should stop using the unemployment as an issue to actually get people to start being more productive and being proactive as well?
I think
are we using this level of unemployment as an excuse, for things that are not really happening or things that we're not really doing ourselves?
I believe the army, the defense forces shouldn't really accept mediocrity just because there's a lot of unemployment going on around. So I believe they should be able to demand for the best of the best. In terms of education, physicality, we've seen education isn't the only qualification there. They have a height requirement, they have age requirement as well. So they have all these other requirements. So you shouldn't be married or have a child. You should be, for a male, you should be over 1.6 meters. You should be between the ages of 18 and 25. We have all those requirements. But I think for most people, I think we shouldn't really shy away from ideals. I think it's very possible for people to get 12 points. So I think we need, and then for you to get the 12 points or less, I think you need to show some sort of dedication to your education. And I think that's a good sign for them, knowing that, okay, this person is focused and they're able to set their mind to something and actually do something with it. And for unemployment, quite all right, it might be fine to see how they can incorporate all these unemployed people. But then again, that shouldn't come at the expense of giving all these mediocre people, enrolling them in the army. So I think they also need like top of everything, So I think it would be much easier for them as well to carry out all these issues. Obviously, it's not really about physicality as well. We have that mental toughness, how resolute, how fast-thinking people are, and just how hardworking people are. Quite all right. Some issues, some concerns have been raised in regards to if education is the best measure, like just education qualifications are the best measure to see if somebody is fit for the army. I don't know how true that is, but I believe it isn't wrong for the army to have these certain requirements. Because they shouldn't really just admit anyone for the sake of the admission.
All right. I like the fact that you have brought in all these other attributes apart from attaining 12 points or below as well. Now, you could be smart or you could be intelligent, but you might not really be physically fit for the position. So it's not really a case of having just one thing going, but you obviously need to meet a lot of qualifications to actually be able to be recruited in the army as well. Now, the other problem that is there as well is people feel that there are those ones that know people and feel that those ones are going to get, some type of what's the word I'm looking for?
Some sort of kickback or maybe some easy backdoor.
Yes, exactly. Like they'll freely, slide into those opportunities that have been presented as well, simply because they know someone that is in a certain, type of position as well. So how is the defense force going to ensure that everyone gets, equal opportunity to actually apply and actually be called in for an interview, and obviously go through the same trainings that people have to go through before they are actually recruited as well? I think that is one concern as well. Now, the issue to do with a lot of unemployed youth, we do have a lot of unemployed youth. Most of those young people are on the streets, and most of those young people that are on the streets have affiliated themselves with political parties, and so they've become very violent people. Like, even if you want to bring them in and say we can recruit you, the type of the attitude that they have, that they're exhibiting, I think is not something that the defense force would be looking for, because it feels as if they cannot be told anything. Because in as much as you will be brought in and say, okay, you have the qualifications that you need, are you teachable? are you going to ensure that you are well molded as you should, and just follow all the guidelines that are there as a recruitee, or as a potential person of service.
Yeah, exactly. So, just bringing on to that, where we have a lot of youths that are employed and the like, we also have cadets, as the Lusaka lawyer and political analyst Dixon Jerry has said, that some sort of preference or recommendation should be given to these cadets because they've shown some career interest in looking for a venture in the defense forces. So I think they should be amongst the priority of the people that get enrolled. So he's actually recalled that most of these people who join the cadet, they have like times where they're supposed to be in classes, but they have to go there and march and do all their drills with the other cadets. So I believe they're sort of like committed, and they already have like a foot on the ground on what has to be done, the protocol that needs to be observed and the like. So I believe these are some people that should be given priority. Yeah. So, and when it comes to these people who choose to affiliate with the parties and the like, I think for the most part that's a lost cause. I don't know whether it's just their own doing or their own inclination, but I believe it has a lot to play again with unemployment. I think it just brings you from one thing to the next. You're violent because you're unemployed. And you might be unemployed because you're violent again. You're not somebody who's seen as presentable, or maybe somebody who looks employable. Yeah, so I think it's just one thing leading to the other and back. So I believe we really need to see how we can work on ourselves and ensure that we're marketable in some sort of way. Yeah.
And one thing that most people, I'm glad that probably some people are talking about it, but most people choose not to talk about it. And this is an issue to do with your mental health stability as well. And in as much as sometimes it's very hard for people to actually, talk freely about what they could be emotionally or mentally be going through, I think this is something that is now has become like a great need, and maybe something should be put in place to ensure that people's mental health, I think, remains as stable as possible as well. And it's not everyone that probably that is admitted to, let's say like Chinama, that has got a mental health problem. It's people have a lot that they have to go through, in their homes. And when you mention the aspect of violence as well, maybe it's because of where they're coming from, and they have nowhere else to channel their anger, so they just take it out wherever they see an opportunity to actually do that. But if mental health is really made, is it accessible, a good term to use? And people learn to are made to understand what it actually means, that you're not being evaluated because we feel that you have a mental problem, but you're just being evaluated, just like have someone to actually talk to about your problems as well. And one thing that we know is that when it comes to men, I think you have a lot of things to actually bottle up, because your expectations are really great. The world expects so much from you. The world expects you to not really show your problems. You will always be told kosa ulimwaume, even when you're going through like a lot of pain as well. So I do understand that even when it comes to the young people on the streets that are very, very violent as well, it could be because of where they're coming from or what they have to go through as well, now coupled with what they've actually find on the street, and so they build a certain character for themselves as well. Then also you mentioned about the soccer lawyer and political analyst Dixon Jerry, who said that the priority should be given to the cadets. I know we did also talk about this, but this really, for me, I feel would be a very wise move as well. When you are in school, there are those people that will get some free scholarships, or out of 1,000 in the school, they'll be chosen to say you'll be sponsored to actually go and study abroad and the like. And I think in the same way, I think it should begin from the young people being molded as well, and obviously being identified as prospects for the Zambia National Service as well. It should begin from there, and they need to understand that it's so much more than muscle, but academics as well, because it's a certain type of intelligence that needs to be applied as well. When you look at there was something that came into my mind. But it came, when you're watching all this, probably like CSI movies or investigative movies as well, I should feel that these are things that should actually motivate young people, to actually now try to be smart and find, ways in which they could actually, apply their intelligence to the work that they could, be doing, especially if they want to be or want to serve in the service as well, in the defense force.
Yeah, so I believe you've talked
I was
about...
about to say the Pentagon.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
So I believe you've mentioned about education and just like motivation to like work harder in regards to school. I believe this will actually force people to actually pay attention to their education as well. I think you won't have that excuse where you just have to say, I can just do whatever I want here as long as I live with a certificate here. I can always join the army and work from there. Obviously, the army we are never live for yeah, we all like, everybody wants to be associated with people who are smart, so to say. Yeah, so I believe we just have to work harder and just try and do our best to see that we actually meet up with these requirements and ideals that are required from us for us to actually venture into all these things. Yeah, so I think in the years to come, obviously it will just drop lower and lower. We'll see if the Ministry of Defense will actually look into raising maybe the requirement for qualification, maybe raising to maybe 15, 16 points or something. But I believe it should be fine, and it should set precedence for people who are still in school and are considering like just the broader importance of education. I believe it's possible to get 12 points.
But how many people actually are in class and they grow up to say, okay, when I finish school, I want to join the service? I should feel only those that actually get to join the cadet are the ones that I have, that, intention to actually join the service as well. So by virtue of saying this, I think the world has just become very competitive as well. If you cannot really create something of your own, I think the bar is rising now on the expectations that, employers are looking for, and recruitment agencies also are looking for in this case. So if you're not going to push yourself to create something for yourself, then obviously you need to ensure that when you go in school, you give the utmost, attention towards your studies, and ensure that you get to a position where you will be granted the opportunity, as this. So when it comes, it's 12 points or 10 or 6 points next time, be like, yes, I have the 6 points and I've worked hard because this is what I actually want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you on that. If people are able to get these 6 points, 12 points, I think it's all about commitment and actually putting in that work. I think which are very good traits to have. So just the commitment and just actually putting in that work to see that what you want actually happens. Yeah. So I believe it's actually a good thing.
Right.
Although we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Even to the fact that unemployment is also an issue that has to be mitigated. So I believe not exactly the army. The army shouldn't be a dumping place for all these unemployed and unqualified people. I believe a solution has to be found for them, but not just the army. You can't just dump such anyone in the army, because this is actually a sensitive part of governance. So I believe we need competent people there.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I believe,
And I would also like to ask a question. When people talk about like unemployment, what areas are they actually referring to? Is it the public service, or is the private institutions as well that they're referring to? because we keep on talking about, no, there are a lot of young people that are unemployed. This has been going on for a number of years as well. And I do think there are some people that have identified one or two reasons why we have a huge, number of unemployed young people as well. Is it because there's no enabling environment for one to actually have a business? Is it to do with funds, even if it's funds, like how accessible those funds as well. So I think we need to get to a point where now we really get to the root of the problem to actually find a solution as well. And based on this, I feel we should really stop condemning. I think in as much as, yes, people may have one or two thoughts about the recruitment and the process that is going to be done, I think we should also, now get to a point where we realize to say, okay, this could actually be a good thing as well.
Yes, so I believe all this unemployment, we really don't know what the cause is. I think it goes from person to person. I wouldn't want to speak for anyone, but I might be speaking from a point of privilege, but I believe there are a lot of opportunities out there. I think you meet some people who are kind of innovative and see like money or maybe a way to make money in everything they come across. So I believe we just need to have that mentality and just see where we can render a service or maybe just provide something.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of ways in which obviously the employment might not be there, but obviously there are definitely jobs. There are jobs to be done there. So I think people just have to open up and look at all the ventures they can.
Because if they're saying there is an unemployment for people that have probably not managed to complete their, primary or secondary education, if we know there's a huge number of that, and this is the type of, problem that is there, this is a weak point, I think then now we'll be able to identify which one is which, because there could be those ones that have completed their grade 12, their universities, and still are unemployed, and then the number that has probably didn't really get through, their primary or secondary education because of, lack of money or funds as well. But I do also want to comment, I think, what the mayor of Lusaka is doing. As you watch, if you have been paying close attention to his page as well, I think he's trying by all means to actually, motivate a lot of young people that have come up with ideas as well. So if you have something that, people could actually, buy into, you could just start it. It doesn't matter. Eventually the world is going to hear about you. The idea is just to continue going and not actually giving up or stopping as well. I think, like you said, jobs are there, but it's about you creating that opportunity. And I think it also goes with who we actually associate with. It really, really plays a very important role on who or how we get to become, in future.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I think people just have to open their heads. We have agriculture, we have mining. I don't know, we just need to see how we can leverage on the amount of talent and resources we have around us, and actually just figure out a way to work with them and actually make some profit out of them. I think if people can contribute capital. Capital seems to be a big issue when it comes to most people. They want capital, but I don't know if they expect it to drop from heaven. I think it's really important to start small and see whatever you can do. I think that's one of the most important aspects of business, where you just start small and just be resolute and see your business grow. I think that's very important. It's also character building as well. Just starting small and seeing just the whole struggle is worth it. And it has a lot to teach. So I think people should just go out there and put themselves out there.
And I'm not saying I have everything figured out or wonder, but what if you have a lawnmower or if you have a bucket and I don't have, and I'm looking for capital, I don't think we should always be looking for capital in monetary form as well. If I can come to you and say, Chimwanga, could you lend me your bucket to use for the day? As I go to wash, people's cars, I'll bring it back and probably give a 1 kwacha, every day for, the inconvenience.
Zambians don't pay. we have a bad reputation when it comes to debt management.
Okay, it's not really about that, but I'm talking about I come here and I'm asking for the bucket that you use to wash your clothes. So if you wash your clothes on Saturday, then I have Monday to Friday to actually use your bucket until the Saturday when you need to also use it. I'm just saying we should not really be expecting people to come in and give us money. Money quickly disappears as quickly as it comes sometimes. Yeah. So it comes in, then it goes out, as fast as that. But if you're able to at least, have, something that you would invest your time in, because time is the greatest investment as well. I think it's possible to actually get something out of that as well. Yeah, I've been hearing of young people. The other day I was listening to the radio, and there's a young person that washes like blankets for like 30 kwacha. So every blanket is like 30 kwacha, and she really got an overwhelming response where people were saying, no, I don't want you to come and wash for me. I'll just give you that money, but I could recommend you to someone else that would be needing those services. So yeah, I guess when it comes to unemployment, I think we really need to get to a point where we create those opportunities as well. And so on that particular note, we would like to come to the end of today's episode of the News Report. But before we go, here are the stories that made headlines. Media bodies condemn SunFM journalists for humiliating interview.
And 12 points too high for many unemployed youth, says a PF Youth Vice Chairperson.
Right, so that's all we had for you today. Join us again on Thursday at 18 hours for more news. This has been Salifyanji Bweupe and Chimwanga Kalala on behalf of the entire production crew saying good night and God bless.